Alright, so here's the problem I was having with my guitar. Bought this guitar a couple years ago, great guitar, bought it for 200 bucks, and that's a really good deal for like a Fender Strat, Mexican made, right? So got it, took it down to my guitar tech. He said, oh wow, this is a great guitar. The only issue I found after playing with it for a while is that the saddles on the D string and the high E string, the screws for those saddles were not turning with the Allen key at all. And so I was like, oh gosh, this is pretty frustrating. Like I can't adjust the height of them. And I didn't want to just force it because you could really damage the hardware that way. I was thinking, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to replace the whole bridge now. And you know, it's a tremolo, so probably gonna be like a 40 buck expense. And then maybe if I take it to my guitar tech, it's gonna be even pricier. But I was so relieved to find out that if I can just replace the screws, then that's less than 10 bucks and I don't have to, you know, I can do that on my own. I don't have to take it or send it off anywhere. So that was kind of a relief to find that out. So I'm going to show you how I went about fixing and replacing these screws, and hopefully this helps you if you find yourself in the same situation. So the first thing I did was Google bridge saddle screws for Fender Strat, and I found these on Amazon. And the tricky part was figuring out whether I needed the M3 or US 440 bolts. I had no idea what that meant, so as anyone would, I went to ChatGPT for help. Shout out to AI for helping me understand what M3 and US 440 meant. I had never heard of those terms before, so it was a very educational experience for me. Now this guitar was made in Mexico. That's what's on the headstock at least, so I ordered the metric or M3 bolts. And I ordered the 6mm and 8mm because I read in the reviews that for the saddles that lay lower on the bridge, the 6mm works better and the 8mm works better for the taller saddles. And this is nice because the screws don't stick up out of the saddles and you kind of save yourself from scraping your hand or arm on them while playing. I went ahead and detuned all my guitar strings just so I wouldn't have to worry about popping any. Next, I grabbed my Allen key and started to remove the old saddle screws. Now the saddles for the D and high E strings were the ones that had their screws stripped, so for these I had to unscrew the saddle and loosen these by hand. I grabbed a piece of tape and paper and made sure to place the old screws on the tape so they wouldn't get lost. I found it was a good way to keep a reference, and worst case scenario, I could always put the old screws back on. I compared the old screws to my new screws and they appear to be the same, so I thought, okay great, this is going to be a super easy fix, but it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. I'll show you why. Next, I grabbed the bag of new screws and started to put them on the guitar, except they wouldn't fit. And oh my goodness, this was so frustrating. And after several attempts of trying to lightly twist the screws into place, I just accepted the fact that I had ordered the wrong size of screw. Luckily, the manufacturer sends a US 440 screw as a comparison in a little plastic baggie. So I took this out and tested it on my saddles, and sure enough, it worked. So this made me feel happy and hopeful again that I could fix my guitar's action issue. And it also made me feel like maybe that's why they include this little baggie when you order the screws, because other people have made the same mistake. After a couple of days, I got the new US 440 screws, so I sat down again and screwed them into the saddles with no issues. Something I learned though was that I shouldn't have screwed the bolts in so much when I was putting them into the saddles, unless you like the sound. So my current theory is that the previous owner bought this Mexican Strat and then put American hardware on here. The US 440 bolts worked, but not the M3 bolts. So I don't know, that's what I'm working with, but if you guys know the answer or you have a better explanation, please let me know in the comments below. I hope this video helped you. I know for me it was a big learning experience, but I'm glad I was able to knock it out on my own instead of having to, you know, pay a large sum of money to just replace some screws. So anyways, thanks for watching and happy practicing.